If mainstream American Islam is a peaceful faith that hates what happened this month in Orlando, how should American Muslims react? I'm Scott Ott with Stephen Green and Bill Whittle, and this is Right Angle, made possible by members at BillWhittle.com. Well, men, the Washington Post talked to some Muslims who lived near terrorist Omar Mateen or worship at the mosque that his family attends. They say they're keeping a low profile, concerned about anti-Muslim slurs shouted from passing cars, and wondering how anyone could justify slaughter in the name of Allah when they say their faith, in the words of one man, is, quote, that it absolutely condemns violence. Well, Stephen Green, like President Obama, the Washington Post seems greatly concerned about the potential for backlash against innocent, peace-loving Muslims. And while the Washington Post article documented nothing more than a few anonymous drive-bys shouting murderers, don't you agree that American Muslims should be concerned about ignorance and intolerance exploding in violence against them?
You know what? I was going to have kind of this cool, sly answer to this question, but I'm throwing all that out because this kind of thing is really starting to irk me after 14 or 15 years of this BS. Look, our response to 9/11 wasn't to hang and draw and quarter a bunch of Muslims. Our response to 9/11 was to go into Afghanistan and liberate 25 million Muslims from the Taliban. All right, and was to decimate Al Qaeda, which was murdering mostly Muslims. That's what they did. They don't mostly murder decadent Westerners. They mostly murder their fellow Muslims. And what we did was to liberate 25 million Muslims from that horrible regime and kill those murdering terrorists. And then, whatever you think of the wisdom of Iraq, we further liberated another 25 million Muslims from Saddam Hussein, and we stayed, maybe not long enough, but we stayed to try and keep the peace and to keep Sunnis and Shias, the two major branches of Islam, from murdering each other. That was our response. That was our major response to the worst terror attack on U.S. soil. Not to kill Muslims, not to persecute Muslims, but to liberate Muslims from their fellow Muslims. So let's just get that out of the way right now. And this whole question, of asking American Muslims to denounce these things as Muslims, forget that. Let's ask them what they think of this as Americans, and that should be the only response we need.
Well, the Muslims with whom the Post talked seemed truly bewildered that the shooter or anyone could twist the gentle religion of Muhammad into a pretext for massacre. Now, Bill Whittle, if they truly believe this, then what should they do now?
I was with him right up until that last sentence you gave me, Scotty. I am actually very concerned about this. I agree with Steve completely in the sense that not just the American people, but Westerners in general have behaved with unbelievable restraint to these provocations and murders that have gone on, not just in America, but obviously much worse.
Restraint. Yeah,
much worse in Europe. And you can make the case that too much restraint means worse behavior. Kowtowing to the people. And having the New York Times not publish any of the Muhammad cartoons is, in fact, making us much less safe than we were before. But if you're telling me that these Muslims really just can't understand how anyone could pervert their religion that is nothing but peaceful, then I just have to say they're lying. I mean, I've read the Quran. I suspect you both have as well. It is an instruction manual for many things, and one of them is conquest and murder. There is no turn the other cheek that I've seen in the Quran. There is no love thy neighbor as thyself as I've seen in the Quran. There are a number of surahs that deal with what to do with prisoners, how to handle the infidel, what is a false truce, when are they allowed, and so on and so forth. So I think really the two things I would like to mention on this are, number one, we do have to be very careful that we don't lose our souls here. There are, in fact, millions and millions of perfectly honest, decent, lovely, loving, patriotic American Muslims in this country, and if we forget that, we're going to lose our way. And we're going to go down a path we do not want to go down at all. So just connected to that, we had interred all those Japanese Americans right after Pearl Harbor. And I think you could probably be pretty sure that of all the Japanese that were interred, there were probably a number of Japanese sympathizers and maybe even a number of saboteurs. But the fact is, almost everybody there were patriotic Americans. They went on to prove it by serving with incredible distinction and bravery in World War II. So that was a great injustice, and I worry about that. But if they're trying to tell us that this religion is a religion of peace, that's when I that's when my support for them dries up. They have to come to grips with what their religion commands them to do.
Well, in 1982, 7 people in the Chicago area died of poisoning after taking Tylenol, the over-the-counter painkiller. An unknown mass murderer had contaminated the product. Tylenol's market share collapsed from 35% of the market to 8%. But within a year, it had recovered its market share, and Johnson & Johnson was hailed for being honest with the public, for rapidly recalling the product, and for developing a triple-sealed tamper-proof package. Within a couple of years, Tylenol was the market leader. Now, if I were a brand consultant with American Islam, I'd say to them this: you are now Tylenol in 1982. Many Americans don't know whether it's something in your product that's killing people, or if an enemy of your faith is corrupting the product with deadly consequences. Now, you can sit back and watch your market share plummet and complain about the bigotry of the ignorant, or you can be proactive, be honest, clearly distance yourself from the poison people, and put in place safeguards to help prevent future abuses. No politician is going to do this for you. They're just using you for power. No one cares more about the future of American Islam than American Muslims do. If you do nothing, people will assume the worst. The choice is yours. For Bill Whittle, Stephen Green, and the Right Angle team, I'm Scott Ott. Thank you for making this possible and for sharing the membership opportunity with your friends at BillWhittle.com.